All right, we're about to go on an incredible journey. We're going to tour a network that's so vast it could circle the entire planet. But it's all happening inside of you, right this second. Welcome to the grand tour of your circulatory system.
So, just to wrap your head around the sheer scale we're talking about, get this. If you could somehow take all of your blood vessels, every artery, every vein, all those tiny little capillaries, and lay them end to end, they would stretch for 100,000 kilometers. That's enough to go around the Earth 2.5 times. And that whole network is packed inside you. It's just staggering.
You know, it's so easy to picture this whole thing as just glorified plumbing, right? A bunch of passive tubes that just carry liquid around. But that could not be further from the truth. Your blood vessels are active, living, dynamic organs. They're constantly contracting and expanding to meet your body's every need. Okay, so for this first part of our tour, let's dive into exactly why the system is so much more than just a bunch of simple pipes. The whole network is what we call a closed system, and that means that all 5-ish liters of your blood are contained inside it at all times. Every single drop starts its journey in the heart, makes a huge trip all around the body, and eventually comes right back to where it started. It's a perfect loop. So let's actually follow one single drop of blood on that very journey. We're going to pick it up as it's returning to the heart after a long haul around the body. It's tired and it's ready for a super important mission, to the lungs. So this blood that's coming back, we call it deoxygenated. All that means is it's just delivered its precious cargo of oxygen to all your cells. And that's why in all the diagrams you see it colored blue. Now, your blood isn't actually blue, of course. It's just a way to show that it's oxygen poor and it really needs a refill. Okay, so let's trace the path right here. First, as you see in step 1, the blood flows into the right atrium through those two big veins, the vena cava. From there, it passes through a kind of one-way door, that's the tricuspid valve, and into the right ventricle. Now, these valves are key. Their whole job is to make sure blood never flows backward. Finally, the ventricle gives a good squeeze, pushing the blood through another valve, the pulmonary valve, and into the pulmonary artery, which, you guessed it, heads straight for the lungs. But hold on. Before our little blood drop actually gets to the lungs, let's hit pause and look at what's powering this entire operation. Because the heart, well, it has its own incredible internal electrical system that makes every single beat possible. I mean, really think about that for a second. Your heart can beat nearly 3 billion times in an average lifetime. How does it not get tired? Well, part of the answer is that your heart muscle cells are just jam-packed with mitochondria. Those are the tiny power generators in our cells. They can take up as much as 35% of the cell's entire volume. But the real secret, the real magic, comes from these incredible things called pacemaker cells. What's so amazing about them is that they give the heart its own autonomy. They can generate their own electrical spark without any signal from the brain. In a very real way, your heart has its own little brain and can run the show all by itself. And this is how that brilliant electrical pathway works. So at point 1, the spark kicks off in the SA node. That's our natural pacemaker. The signal spreads out, making the atria, the top chambers, contract. Next, it hits the AV node, which does something genius. It delays the signal for just 1/10 of a second. And this little pause, it's absolutely crucial. It gives the atria time to finish their squeeze before the ventricles start theirs. Then the signal zips down the bundle of His and out through the Purkinje fibers at the end, triggering this powerful bottom-up contraction of the ventricles. The whole thing is over in less than 1/4 of a second. It's a perfect sequence. So, what happens when this perfect timing goes totally haywire? Well, you get a condition called fibrillation. And it really is like an orchestra where every musician is just playing their own random tune. It's total chaos. And this is where the defibrillator comes in. But here's the wild part. You might think it jumpstarts the heart, but it actually does the opposite. It sends a massive electrical shock that stops the heart completely. It silences all that chaotic noise. And that silence gives the SA node a chance to take over again and reset the rhythm, just like a conductor tapping their baton to get everyone back on the same beat. All right, our blood drop made it to the lungs. It dropped off its carbon dioxide, and it picked up a fresh load of oxygen. Now it's bright red, fully loaded, and it's time to get back on tour and see how it gets delivered to the rest of the body. So this fresh, newly oxygenated blood comes back from the lungs and enters the left atrium. From there, it passes into the super powerful left ventricle. This is the real muscular superstar of the heart, and it's getting ready to pump that blood to every single cell in your body. This is the main event. The highways for this big delivery are, of course, the blood vessels. and they all share this basic three-layer structure. The inside layer, the tunica intima, is super slick so blood can just glide through. The middle layer, the tunica media, is all muscle that can tighten or relax to control blood flow. And on the outside, you've got the tunica externa, which is like a tough protective overcoat.
Hey, remember how we said these aren't just pipes? Well, this is where that really matters, especially for the big arteries like the aorta. They're way more like elastic balloons. See, they have to absorb this huge surge of pressure with every single heartbeat. If they were rigid like lead pipes, they'd just get damaged. Instead, they expand and then recoil, which helps smooth out the pressure and keep things flowing.
So the big takeaway here is how perfectly designed each part of the network is for its specific job. Arteries, which carry that high-pressure blood away from the heart, they have to have thick, muscular walls. They eventually branch into these tiny capillaries whose walls are only a single cell thick, ridiculously thin, which is perfect for letting oxygen and nutrients pass through to the cells. And finally, all that blood gets collected into veins, which have thinner walls and carry it all back to the heart. And that brings us to the final leg of our tour, and maybe the most challenging part of all, the journey home. We gotta get all that blood from the farthest reaches of the body, like your toes, all the way back to the heart.
See, by the time blood gets down into the veins in your legs, the pressure from that initial heartbeat is almost totally gone. So here's the puzzle. How does that blood make the long uphill climb back to your heart, fighting gravity the entire way?
Well, the answer is just a beautiful piece of biological engineering, one-way valves. Inside your veins, you have these series of tiny little flaps. When your leg muscles contract, they squeeze the veins and push the blood upward. But then, between contractions, gravity tries to pull the blood back down, and these little valves snap shut. It works just like a series of locks in a canal, lifting the blood step by step all the way back home. So let's bring this whole thing full circle. When you add up every single beat, every single journey, your heart, this amazing, tireless pump, moves about 7,500 liters of blood through this entire system, every single day. That is just an astonishing amount of work. And what's maybe even more amazing than that, the time it takes for that one little drop of blood we've been following to complete the entire circuit from the heart to the lungs, out to your big toe, and all the way back again, is just about 1 minute. 1 minute for a grand tour that stretches thousands of kilometers and keeps every single part of you alive. As we finish up, just think about that. Your heart just completed that entire circuit while you were listening to this. It's doing it again right now. So what amazing thought, what cool idea, what incredible moment will it power for you in the next one?